Tracy, would you do the roll call? Tracy,
Oh, I'm sorry.
roll call, please.
I'm sorry, I don't have a,
Entities
okay. Judge Mills,
here.
Mayor Cole,
Here.
Here.
Malcolm Decal.
Actually,
Mayor Monroe.
Here.
Anyone else I'm missing?
it's just Jeff.
That's fine.
All right, we do have a quorum. And we have Christy Rutledge to speak. You want to come up here?
Thank you, Judge and members of the LGC. I just wanted to say that the LGC was contemplated after Hurricane Harvey for the purpose of being a one-stop shop for our community to come together and to learn how to recover together. The business community and the government and the people. And the LGC allowed the citizens of Rockport and all of the entities to be one place as we discovered what our recovery would be. And part of our recovery was not only personal, but it was economic recovery. And this is something that we should join together with. So I believe that the LGC should continue as is so that this entity is a place for community members from all aspects to come together for open records purposes, for communication, and for a way to be joined together. There is no reason 5 years after Hurricane Harvey for our community to start acting independently in the entities. This is a joint effort, economic recovery, and it is our economic recovery as as individuals. The direction of our community is important to all of us. We are all stakeholders, we are all taxpayers, and this is a great way to continue forward. So the changes that I'm seeing here, I'm concerned about, and I'll talk on each item as they come up. So I encourage that the LGC continue as is so that we can be one community united in our recovery throughout the rest of the years that it takes. Because we've been told it takes 10, 15 years to recover and to develop our future. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Anyone else? No one on Zoom? Is John Bell on Zoom? Okay, under consent items, discuss an acceptance of the May 2nd, 2022 meeting. Have a motion. Have a second.
So I'll second.
All those approved, say aye. Disapproved. Unanimous. All right, item number 1, discuss, deliberate, and take action on the ACP EDC 2022 second quarter.
Order real quick. Can somebody speak to Mr. Bell and let him know that in case he doesn't know to get on that, take a little bit of time and
Do we have that phone number? I don't think I have it.
Mr. Bell.
Yeah, I don't have.
No.
Just a minute, let me see.
Mr. Rolodex.
Mr. Rolodex.
Good morning, Ms. Chung. Yes, I'm actually in a meeting. Is he planning to come to Rockport by chance?
Or Zoom.
Or Zoom.
We have a meeting that started at 10. He was in the Zoom meeting.
Me. It's Friday that he'd be here.
Speaking of.
Oh,
There he is.
Thanks, sir.
All right, in person.
Oh. Those pesky clients. Mr. Bell, I feel honored. I'm apparently the only one in the room with your phone number, so.
I found it, but it took me a while. All right, we're waiting for Jeff Sojourn to come up.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Gonna make you look very small, Judge.
I know.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for allowing me to be here. This is my first time in front of the LGC board, so excited to be here. Appreciate the opportunity. What we gave to you is the report that was done in anticipation of the last meeting that was postponed. It's fairly self-explanatory, so I won't waste a lot of your time. Happy to answer questions that you may have. Essentially, what I attempted to do was based on conversations with Mr. Meek and looking kind of through the first year of 2022, the first half of the year, is just put together our 6-month report as it relates to the Economic Development Corporation and its relationship with the LGC.
Can we get it on the screen? The report.
Okay. I apologize for that. Basically, we broke it down into a couple of areas. The governmental activities had to do with the creation of the economic incentive policies that have been adopted through the city and the county. I think it's important to note, just based on some of the conversations that I've been hearing, that, you know, the ultimate authority rests with the cities and the counties, the county, in terms of anything that they would choose to do or not do as it related to economic incentives. The EDC worked on the creation and actually has implemented a website that has been updated through interactive demographics and the availability to list available land and buildings as a site location type of a tool and asset. And then Michael Meek was appointed the co-chair of Representative Todd Hunter's Broadband Task Force and spent quite a bit of time over that first part of this year monitoring where that was, where that's going. And we look to continue to be an active role in any efforts as it relates to broadband development throughout Aransas County. Organizationally, I guess I really should start and just say thank you, because it's the LGC that helped to provide the foundation for me to be here. And I'm excited to be here with the Economic Development Corporation. But what I tell everybody is I kind of feel like I'm in an organization where we're going from our knees and attempting to walk. It's not a complete startup, but it's pretty close to it in terms of organizationally. I think with credit to the leadership of the EDC, they had over 40% growth in their membership in that first half of 2022. And what I like about that is that leverages public sector participation by having private sector investments into the organization. They adopted their 2022-2025 plan of work. And I apologize to be talking second and third person, because it's kind of like I'm a dual personality, because a lot of this was done before I was even here. But within that, they have their target marketing strategies. The plans have been put together there. And then also identifying target market sectors. That was a culmination of, I think, both internal work of the EDC, as well as we're doing consideration of the long-term recovery plan, the comprehensive plan, and other strategies that have been deployed since Hurricane Harvey. And then they've executed their staffing plan. I think most of you recall, basically, Barbara Gertner came on board in 2020. Mike Meek was selected as a consultant in 2021, kind of that last half of 2021, and then was brought in as the interim president for that first 6 months of 2022. They went through a search selection process, and I was fortunate to be asked to come down and join the EDC. And so I began that second week of July and have been on board since. So they've completed their executive search process. We moved offices from the chamber to what is now a temporary location on trailer. We will be moving again. The folks that allowed us to move into trailer are coming back. And so we're actually going to be locating at a building out near the airport that's located in that little industrial park. And we'll be doing that sometime probably here towards the 1st of October. And so we'll provide that information to all of you so you know where we are. And then the EDC also conducted an executive retreat and worked extremely hard on member engagement. In terms of projects, I just broke it down into marketing and project activities. From a marketing standpoint, very actively involved in the Texas Economic Development Council. The EDC paid for some advertising in the Port of Corpus Christi, one of their collateral pieces. And also the EDC staff were, Mike and Barbara, were certified through the AEP Economic Development Program and worked to try and enhance their relationship with our electric provider. With regard to activities, ongoing support and facilitation of the Workforce Development Center, development of a project tracking system, technical assistance for projects review, and then support for the Aransas County ISD bond issue and a number of activities related to the opening of the Rockport terminals here in Aransas County. So with that, extremely brief, I attempted to be succinct, but that was the report that was put together for that second quarter of 2022.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
Yes, sir.
What is, on your proposal, you said that governments local entities could get the AEP certification too?
That's actually open to anyone. And so I'm happy to provide to you links, and we're going to be putting that on our website. I had a meeting with Patrick King a week ago. That's a program that's basically kind of an Economic Development 101 course. And Dale Fowler, who is the director of the Victoria EDC, is now back with AEP. He oversees that program, but that's available to anyone to participate.
During the bond issue, I guess you weren't here, but y'all, I had a question on this. Y'all put out a statement in the newspaper, which was a whereas statement. Is the EDC, is it a type A or a type B corporation, Economic Development Corporation?
Neither.
It's neither. It's neither.
The EDC is a private nonprofit, 501c6 membership-based organization. The 4A, 4B is meant for cities that employ the economic development sales tax, and that's not available in Rockport or Aransas County.
Is there, so in actuality, you guys are not an economic development corporation by like the way it's statutorily defined? Is that, or is it some other way? Because I guess what I'm trying to say is, when people go like Victoria EDC, they go to their website, they assume it's like a type A or a type B corporation, right? So
I think that's an incorrect assumption. I mean, they're economic development corporations all over the state of Texas and the country. They're neither type A or type B corporations. The Corpus Christi EDC is not a type A or type B.
And there's
it's more rare if you have a EDC that happens to be a type A or a type B. Those are technically called development corporations under the Texas Development Corporation.
and only those are the only ones that can receive taxpayer dollars. Is that correct? Or
No, those are the only ones that are authorized to levy a sales tax.
levy a sales tax? That's what I meant.
They actually levy a sales tax.
Okay, correct.
In fact, they're government to levy a sales tax.
Okay, and Corpus is not.
Corpus Christi has two, a type B corporation, either one of which is the Corpus Christi Regional Economic Development Corporation.
All right, thank you.
Is there an opportunity for public comment?
Really?
Good question.
I understand. I thought each agenda item, that's what it says here. There's an opportunity for each agenda item.
Is it a quick question? Is it quick?
Yeah. All right.
Just as you can ask him, if you don't need, just from your seat, that'll be fine.
Yeah.
Pick it up everywhere.
Yeah. I just want to say on the activities report, I was looking at the website, and I know that's the biggest activity. And the economic development incentives from the city of Rockport are not on the EDC website. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, I've actually had a couple of conversations about that. One, as I understand it, the policy for economic development incentives is still fairly new. And I know it's been talked about for a long time, but both for the city and the county, I'm attempting to be a little bit more measured in terms of how we present that out. Because in the 30 years that I've been doing economic development, generically, there's two types of projects that I typically run into. One is a project where a speculative developer comes to the table, looks for all the programs that are available, and then develops a project around it. The second is a developer that looks at a project, identifies what their plan is, where the gaps are, and then looks for opportunities to fill the gap. And so at this early stage, that's something that we will incorporate. But on this premature level of just getting kind of from my knees to my feet, there's a number of enhancements that we need to do to the website, and there are going to be a number of changes that we make to it as it relates to the economic development toolbox, the resources, and the things that we have listed on that website.
Right. The county's policies are there, and that's why I asked.
Okay.
But the cities are not.
You don't need to, it needs to be updated.
Absolutely.
You have some people.
I don't even think my name's on there yet.
That's true too.
Yep.
I admit that.
So
I make a motion that we approve the ACP EDC 2022 second quarter report.
Motion made. Second, Mayor. J-Ro. All those in favor? Unanimous.
and Judge, I'm going to
Yeah,
apologize.
you need a.
I've got another meeting, so I'm going to stay as long as I can, but then I'm going to have to scoot out.
All
So,
right, well, you can scoot out now if you'd like.
okay. Thank you.
All right. All right, item number 2. Discuss, deliberate, and take action on resolution concerning amendments to the Articles of Incorporation Certificate of Formation bylaws as follows, and A and B. And just my 2 cents worth, I think the LGC has served its purpose. And I would suggest that we go to item number 3 and act on that.
Is there an opportunity for public comment?
Yes, ma'am. In which agenda?
Is that now? Thank you, Judge and LGC members. Regarding item number 2, this item is out of order on the agenda. Item number 4 should be moved up above item number 2 as requested by one of the members of the LGC. And I just want to mention why I'm saying that, because you're asking for an alternative option to dissolve the LGC if this body does not agree to making changes to the LGC. Item number 4 asks on adopting a rule that no changes should be made to the LGC. That should be considered prior to item number 2. The LGC is an important body. It's an important body for all stakeholders of this community, for individual stakeholders and for the business community and for the government entities to come together in an open forum and help to build our community as we go forward. I appreciate our new EDC president. I'm glad that you're here and I welcome you. I look forward to working with you. I think we could all have a good relationship, but we all care very deeply about our community. And so many of the things that happen within the EDC have been kept from the public. And that's why, as a group, as an entity here, the LGC is really important to bring forward the proposals of the EDC, to have these ongoing reports like you just did, to have a discussion and to agree as a community how we go forward with economic development. Many of the things that are discussed in the EDC come along with an assumption of taxpayer contributions. This has been my biggest concern all along. And in fact, our former mayor went to the Texas legislature and said economic development will cause the cost of living to go so high that people will not afford to live here. Well, this is a personal threat to me and my family. And I think that those assumptions of taxpayer share should be discussed in an open forum, not in closed meetings in a private corporation. Because we are all stakeholders, not just the business community, where this dissolving the LGC will put all power in the hands of the business community and one elected official. So the LGC is important. It's important for all of us. It's important for the health and the growth of our community and the healthy growth of our community. I support a lot of the ideas in the EDC, but I don't know what they are. And I don't also know what the taxpayer share is. So those things need to be contemplated and discussed. The idea of the LGC initially also was to bring forward those tax incentives that might be given to certain businesses and to just have a discussion about how that would go forward and the ongoing management of those tax incentives. Are they producing the outcome and the financial benefit that was intended? So I think it's very important to have that in an open meeting and the importance of the LGC to continue. So please move item number 4 up above item number 2 and consider all of our community and the importance of the LGC. I vote for no changes, and that's what I ask you to consider. Thank you.
For your information, no one asked me to put number 4 up in front of anything else. So when I got his request for items to be put on the agenda, it was after my agenda had already been set, so I put them in as it came in.
Kind of following on that, I'd like to make a motion that we move item agenda 4 in front of agenda item 2. I need to read the agenda items.
Yes.
Deliberate and act on adopting rule that no LGC bylaw changes can be approved until after January 1st, 2023 to the number 2 spot.
Yeah, but you make that in the form of a motion.
I'm in the more formal motion.
Do I have a second? Tell you, there's no second, motion passed.
So,
Mr. Bell,
you have a motion on the table, sir.
oh, I'm sorry.
You have a motion on the table.
No.
No, I thought you made a motion to.
You want
Oh, well,
to?
yes, I do have a motion on the table.
Yes, sir.
I didn't make the motion. I just suggested that somebody make the motion, but I will make the motion. Do I have a second? On item number 3. Discuss, deliberate, and take action on resolution of and authorizing the line resolution of the corporation. Do I have a motion on for a second on that?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion?
Can you explain why you make the motion, sir?
It doesn't have to do that.
No, he doesn't have to. So we just have to, no, I'm sorry. It just, if you help me out here, we just go, so we make the motion and then we vote on it, correct?
Right.
Yes, sir.
You can have discussion and anybody, part of a discussion can be for one board member to ask another board member if he would state his position, which you don't have to, but
Yes.
someone.
All right, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Can you please explain why you're seconding the motion?
I agree with the judge's assessment that the job that was set aside for LGC to do has been done, and we have a director, and that board is no longer necessary.
But this motion is to consider the articles, the changes to the articles and bylaws, not to disband.
No, my motion is
I
disband.
didn't get a second.
Right.
But aren't you on number 2 now?
No, I'm on number 3.
But when you moved to move 3 to consider it before 2, nobody seconded your motion.
He did.
Okay, so you, so you
And so
second.
have you already voted on moving 3 to 4-2? I missed the vote.
No,
No, it was a first and
For a motion and a second. Okay, so what's up now is moving 3 before 2, and the question is there discussion on that?
So the motion is to approve number 3. Under Robert's Rules, Board of the Chair has the right to pick up items on the agenda. And so we call for motion on 3. And the motion is made and seconded on 3. They don't have
Okay,
to
so
vote.
he doesn't have to have a vote to move 3 before 2. He can just,
Under Robert's Rules, Chair
he can skip 2 and go straight to 3.
And if the chair is elected not to do so.
Okay, so the chair can unilaterally skip 2 and go to 3.
That is correct.
Is there an opportunity for public comment on item 3, since that's what we're at now? I've commented on 2 and citizens being heard. May I comment on this one as well?
Yes, ma'am, you can do it from there.
you do it. You want to go here?
I like. This item actually, thank you, Judge and LGC members, is actually quite shocking to me. I submitted a public information request about a month ago concerning changes to the LGC. And I was shocked at the information that I received. And what I received were emails between a leader in the EDC, Mr. Bell, the county attorney, Judge Mills, where John Jackson is directing the actions of Judge Mills and suggesting that the LGC be dissolved. This is very concerning to me that the business community would direct government affairs. And I want to put that on the record because we are all a part of this community. This is our town. We all recovered here. And we all should be a part through the LGC, working together. And in fact, Mayor Jairo, in your campaign, you vowed to work together with all entities. And you talked about how important that was and that how much progress had been made after Hurricane Harvey. And this was the entity that allowed that to happen, the LGC. So I'm very surprised by your motion. And I understand that you may have EDC policies that you want to work on individually with the EDC and not have any discussion or any report from the EDC to the LGC, but that concerns me. So I just want to put that on the record that I have seen a pattern of the business community directing the actions of our elected officials. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Yes, sir.
Judge Mills, if I could just clarify a couple things.
Please.
You stated, my name is John Bell. I'm an attorney in Corpus Christi and assisted in the formation of the Economic Development Corporation and its LGC. And in that email, it was also me, John Bell, not John Jackson. I never saw an email to this effect where I suggested possibility of terminating the LGC. It was not a directive at all. It was just a suggestion that it might be considered because there are a couple of realities in play that are different from what's been stated this morning. One is the LGC automatically terminates if the interlocal agreement is not renewed by all four governmental entities. And so this action to authorize the dissolution in the event that that interlocal agreement is not renewed by all four entities actually is a necessary action in anticipation that the interlocal agreement might not be renewed by all four. We need to have something because that termination is not self-effective. If the interlocal agreement is not renewed, somebody needs to sign a form that I can submit to the Secretary of State and the LGC. It just doesn't happen automatically because the four entities did not get together to review the interlocal agreement.
Is there a deadline? I think there was a deadline by which the interlocal had to be.
The interlocal agreement specifically was designed to continue for 3 years, so it expires in December of this year.
So coming up, it has not yet. Yes.
Coming up, but this is our meeting. This is our last scheduled meeting before then, so it needed to happen. Secondly, the comment was made that the LGC was supposed to decide what economic incentives were to be given by different, the cities and the county and whatnot. That specifically was not supposed to be within the purview of this LGC. When we were organizing the LGC 3 years ago, in fact, the city of Rockport, the town of Fulton, the navigation district in the county, all were very, very zealous and protective of their own institutional right to decide what economic incentives might be given. And so the discussion of what economic incentives to be given has always been reserved. That's in the agreement, specifically to each entity. This entity does not decide any incentives. This entity has no authority to decide any incentive. That's up to the city of Rockport and town of Fulton, the county and the district individually to decide. And so, and I can assure you the EDC has absolutely zero authority to decide what incentives are. It is a private nonprofit corporation designed to bring people into the community. But if anybody's going to get an incentive, it has to be worked out with the appropriate government entity that's there. And so to think that this is a entity that's going to decide what incentives are going to be is very incorrect. It was not what this entity was designed to do. And as to the issue of trying to prohibit any changes to bylaws, the alternative proposal was to amend the bylaws in anticipation that all four entities might not renew the interlocal agreement. So therefore, we would still and change the annual meetings, which is consistent with what the board voted at the last meeting to do. But if there's not going to be an interlocal agreement, I would request that this board take some action so that I have the judge would have authority to sign a paper that we can send to the Secretary of State in order to properly terminate this rather than leave it in limbo. In the event that the three entities do not, or the four entities rather don't renew the interlocal agreement. And so if you look at this resolution, it specifically provides that if the interlocal agreement is not renewed or extended, then the corporation will be dissolved and terminated. And that simply authorizes the judge to do the paperwork that needs to be done.
So
Thank you he did a much better job than I was going to try to.
To our different media, this board is not deciding to kill itself as part of this. This board is simply deciding how to orderly wrap things up in the event that the four entities do not renew the interlocal.
Right.
So you have, can you please explain the process to extend the LGC? What happens now? We terminate it, and there you have another set of, you've drafted another set of bylaws and articles of incorporation, correct? And those go out.
If this LGC is terminated, all I would do is file a certificate after December 3rd.
8th, I think.
8th.
Yeah.
After December 8th, when the interlocal agreement expired, I would just prepare a one-page certificate of termination that the judge would sign. We file that with the Secretary of State, and that way confirm what was done by non-renewal of the interlocal agreement that was simply expired. Now, if the county, if the city of Rockport, the town of Fulton, or the navigation district would like to create an LGC in the future, it's very simple. I created LGCs in a week on behalf of one entity. I can assure you, if you're creating on behalf of one entity, it's really simple because he knows what it wants to do. This one was very complicated because everyone had at the same time trying to get everything together. But if there is a need for an LGC to do something in the future, like issue bonds or lease property or do something that LGC is necessary, that is something to do. The reality is there are LGCs, there are public facility corporations, there are a dozen different specialty corporations provided in state law, each of which have different attributes, strengths, weaknesses. And so if you have a project that comes to town that needs one of those, quite frankly, it's good to just pick the one that works best for that particular project and form it.
So is the intention to do away with the LGC and not bring it back? And are the other option?
As all four of us in the LGC, I don't know that.
And the other option is we have two options on the table today. One is to dissolve it, and the second option.
Well, the second option was anticipation that the interlocal agreement would be renewed. And it might be renewed with only 2 or 3 of the participating entities, 4. And so we're trying to maintain some flexibility in the size of the board, 1. And number 2, follow through with the decision made at the last board meeting in May that this organization would shift to annual meetings as opposed to quarterly. Those are the 2 changes provided in A&D.
So why did we go from switching to having annual meetings to terminating the whole thing?
I said, I think this LGC has done its job and has no purpose anymore.
And you're about 90 days out of office, and you're not going to leave this decision for your incoming.
But this LGC will terminate December 8th, whether I'm in office or not.
Right, but we can make bylaw changes and choose to prolong it. Is that correct?
This organization, under its current articles of incorporation, cannot continue if the interlocal agreement is not renewed. That was set up from the very beginning.
Right.
If this organization
And all 4 of them have to
cannot
do.
continue, there's great the government entities that want to support.
So we could renew the we could renew the interlocal agreement. That's one of the options.
The governmental entities need to decide to renew. The LGC is not a party to the interlocal agreement. The parties to the interlocal agreement are the county, the city of Rockport, the town of Fulton, and the navigation district. They make that decision. This organization simply is dependent upon that decision.
But we can dissolve the LGC.
All this resolution is doing is saying that if the governmental entities do not renew the interlocal agreement, then the judge is authorized to sign the paperwork, file with the Secretary of State in order to actually formally dissolve it. Under the interlocal agreement, it will be dissolved, but somebody has to sign a form to send to the Secretary of State to document that back. It's just called tying things up the way they're supposed to be.
Okay.
May I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Judge, what did the LGC accomplish?
Forming the EDC, get money to form the EDC, right?
So the official statement from the
That was the
LGC,
only purpose for it,
Yes,
just a funnel for money?
yes.
A
That's
tax
not-
incentive?
Actually, how it was presented to the public,
no, it was presented as a one-stop shop at the city.
The EDC is a one-stop shop.
No,
Yeah.
the reason this was not for the EDC, this was for the LGC, and
it was the open meetings part. That was how it was pitched to the public, that it was important to have an aspect of the EDC, because the EDC is a private organization with no Open Records Act and no public information. No Public Meetings Act coverage. The idea was there should be some organization that had those aspects. And the LGC was to be it. There was also some talk of it having illegal authority to accept funds that the EDC could not do. Those were the two reasons we were given why the LGC had to be created in the first place.
I call question. I have a motion and a second to dissolve the LGC. All those for? Aye. And against?
that
All right. Motion made, carried 3-2 or 3-1 that we dissolve it. The rest of this items on the agenda are remote now, I believe.
there's a director's report.
Okay, and if you'd like, we could elect a treasurer and a secretary for the rest of the year. Would you like to do that?
Are we gonna have any more meetings? We're gonna have more meetings? Then no, sir, if you could kindly pull that one off.
Okay, all right. Kansas County Navigation District Director 4.
Yes, sir. Before the last meeting, this is an email that was received from, it came from Mr. Meek to Judge Mills, and CC'd on it was Mr. Bacta, Mr. Jackson, and I to read it out. Maybe, ... quote, discussing revising the bylaws regarding the number of required meetings of the local government corporation, quote. Then you could go over the white paper I sent, ... You can say ... quote, that the LGC has formed post Harvey and has accomplished much of what it was set up to do, i.e. Workforce Development Center, getting economic development going for the recovery. The county and now the city of Rockport have adopted economic policies that codify a process, and having the LGC is an unneeded extra layer of bureaucracy for this. The EDC provides quarterly reports to all 4 governmental entities, and having it done here is redundant, end quote. Quote, I propose that the July LGC meeting, we look forward to keeping the LGC an entity, but with only annual meetings as required by law, unless there is a need to meet. That would mean that there are donations of land and buildings that someone wants to run through the 501c3, end quote, new quotes. As for the EDC, each year they can contract if they want directly with any local government entity separately. Each of the entities have different needs, and they may want the EDC to customize services for them, end quote. Quote, just a suggestion, quote, end quote, quote, thoughts, end quote. Then Pat can weigh in on his comments, and maybe Mayor Cole too. It's not an action, only a discussion. I would like to this would water down the 4 items HUD wants to discuss. His items would be a moot point at this juncture. He'll be forced to either speak in favor of the LGC continuing, or he can agree to put it on ice, he'll be real confused. Since this is the last meeting, I would like to say that as a director, it's nice to know that my very first time on a government board, I resolved government and made it smaller, number one. But number two, this is no way for government entities to act amongst each other. When we originally signed and when you originally pitched this idea, and you pitched it because Jatine Bhakta said that there would be an open records to the EDC, which there wasn't, which this is the LGC that's in the paper. We were told that it was a place where entities could come together and they could stop the bickering and they could get things accomplished. If we are to create another LGC in the future, I would like to see the LGC as it has, we have our own representation. The fact that we are we are a created government entity and we are getting legal advice from a contractor's lawyer who we ended their contract at the last meeting and is, in the words of our lawyer, an extreme condition that he's never seen before. So going forward, if we do this again, I think we should have our own representation, and I think we should have our own treasurer and accounting. We should not be relying on the accountant of the company who we're contracted with, or the director of the company that we're contracted with to be our accountant. And that is it.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor? Aye, against? Thank you.
Yes, I did, sir.